Friends, imagine a queen who becomes so jealous of her own daughter's beauty that she goes this far. Have a massage of bird's poo on the body. What is the purpose of this evil queen? Let's see in today's fantasy adventure film named Mirror Mirror. At the start of the film, we are shown an empire where everyone is always very happy and dancing. The king and queen there have a daughter named Snow White because her skin was as pure as snow. As soon as Snow White was born, her mother passed away. So the king raised the princess. But when she grew a bit, the king realized that Snow White needed a woman who could take care of her well. So the king started looking for a new queen and finally found a very beautiful woman whom he married, bewitched by her beauty. One day, the king received news of a beast in the jungle, and he went to the jungle to fight to save his empire. Before leaving, he had said goodbye to Snow White and gave her his favorite knife. But unfortunately, the king never came back, from which people thought he was dead. Snow White is now completely under the care of her stepmother, who quickly began to reveal her true colors. Then we are shown the time 10 years later where Queen Clementine ruled the kingdom. But she was always engrossed in parties and dresses instead of focusing on her responsibilities. There were rumors that the kingdom is about to become completely helpless. The elders there thought that the queen should remarry so that the empire would get a new king, but she should remarry on this show. Instead of tackling this problem, Clementiana orders that the rumor spreader be punished. He had also forbidden Princess Snow White from going outside the palace, and she was not allowed to leave the room during the queen's party. She tries to sneak out to attend a party on her 18th birthday. But Clementina saw her and scolded her, sending her back to her room. Meanwhile, in the jungle, we see Prince Andrew of some empire who came for an adventure. His mate Charles was also frightened there from the stories of the hidden beast. Then a group of weird sheep figures attacks them. They also had swords and they wanted to steal his gold from Andio. Andrew was pretty good at sword fighting, but he couldn't hold up in front of these people in the finale and lost. It is revealed that this weird figure was actually a group of bones. They had worn special suits. When those people start leaving with the gold, Andre mocks them, so Daphs decides to punish them. And in the next scene, Andre and Charles were hanging upside down with a tree without skulls. On the other side, in the castle, Margaret and another servant wish Snow White with a small cake. They were friends of Snow White and they hoped that one day Snow White would rule where the evil queen was. So Margaret tells Snow White to run away from the castle, giving her the king's knife. In the next scene, we see Clementiana, who activates a magical mirror in her room, and through it, she reached the magical mirror house. Her reflection was the mirror queen there. She reprimands Clementine Anna, saying that no matter how much she hides, she is getting old, so she shouldn't delay in selecting her next husband. Because her fortune was also about to end, which means Clementiano needs to get married soon. After much thought, Snow White runs away from the castle because the guards also support her in this. As she passes through the jungle, she sees Andio and Charles, so she sets them free by cutting the rope. Snow White and Andrew are attracted to each other, but unfortunately, both had to go separate ways. Upon reaching the palace, Andrew apologizes to Aunt Anna for his condition because she really liked Andrew, and after learning about his pins, she decides to marry Andrew. Now her plan was to propose to Andrew by throwing a party for him. But her advisor Breton tells her that we don't have money to party. So Clementiana tells him to bring by collecting taxes from people. Upon which Breton tries to explain to her that people are very poor, but she doesn't listen. On the other hand, Snow White arrives in Snow White Town and was shocked by the poverty of people due to the heavy taxes. In childhood, he had seen these people singing and dancing happily with the king. Then Brighton comes there to announce new taxes. He says that the queen needs money for the protection of the kingdom because an evil beast is roaming in the forest, and he was also behind all the previous attacks. Meanwhile, Andrew sends Charles back to his palace to bring clothes, gold and guards. Charles didn't want to leave her alone because he found Clementine a bit crazy. but Andrew says that I should be fine. Snow White comes back to the meal and tells Margaret about the condition of the people. She started crying after seeing her father's hard work being wasted. Margaret tells her that a party is about to start for the prince and you should go there and win the prince's heart so that you can retrieve your kingdom with his help. Before the party, Clementine gets a weird spa treatment to make herself beautiful, in which she uses worms, piranha, fishes and bird tube. As soon as the party starts at night, she tries to make Mentiana Andrea her dance partner. If a man would have gone in his place because he also wanted to marry Clementiana, so they go some talk to Manina. Whom says he goes to Snow White and they dance together. Just when Snow White was about to ask for help, Clementiana sees her. Out of fear, she ran away from there. But the guard catches her and takes her to the queen. Snow White angrily tells him that I went to town. What have you done to our people? Because Snow White had broken many rules. Gusto mani practicing on many rules, Clementine orders to kill her and tells Breton to take her to the forest and feed her to the beast. On the way, Snow White notices that Clementina's moon necklace was shining a lot today. Once in the forest, Breton unties Snow White's hands because he does not want her to become prey to the beast princess and tells her to run away and never come back. Then, returning to the castle, he tells the queen that he has done her bidding. He shows some animal organs as proof that these are Snow White's. Meanwhile, running in the forest, Snow White faints after bumping into a free house. The next morning, when she came to her senses, she found herself inside a house which was of 1907 bonds. Their aim was to demand money from the queen instead of the princess. Upon which Snow White tells them everything about how actually the queen wants to kill her, meaning she needed help. Initially, they feel scared at the thought of helping her. But after numerous requests from Snow White, they agree to keep her in their house for a night. Secondly, Breton also informs all the servers that Snow White has died and he goes to the town to collect tax. On the way back, Death takes a loop passing through the jungle. He had taken Garch's armor along with the gourd. When she got back home, Snow White was waiting for her, having made dinner. She recognizes the armor, on which Darth confessed that they are actually thieves and they have stolen the queen's money. Hearing this, Snow White gets angry and says that the town is poor and people need money, but Daft didn't care because the people of the town did not like them either. They revealed that the queen had expelled all the ugly-looking people from the town, among which these were also there to wash the spinach. But no man of Topton supported them, so now these people have become thieves. Then suddenly they start arguing amongst themselves, taking advantage of which Snow White ran away from there with the money. They follow him where in town Snow White was returning everyone's money, but instead of taking the credit for this, Snow White tells everyone that Dafts have returned the money, which improves Daft's reputation in front of the townspeople. On the other hand, at the castle, Clementiana tries to flood it while having lunch with Endio, but Andrea was only thinking about Snow White, on which Queen tells her she's dead. And isampun amakun taiti ka dadiye and this atiye. So she starts to propose him, but then Bretterma comes and tells that the dacoits had looted him, hearing which Andrea was angry. So he goes out to take revenge on those bandits, and meanwhile, does cock up. Like in the jungle, Daft was in love with Snow White, silent for the normal pace. But they had one condition, that Snow White will also have to become a thief like them. They plan to steal, not from the people, but from the queen, and give it to the townspeople. So Snow White agrees. After which, they teach her theft skills such as swordsmanship and using cunning to fool people. They had also brought her new clothes. After that, they leave for their first mission, where Snow White had to fool people by pretending to be a lost girl. But the first traveler who arrived there was Andri, who had brought carts along to take revenge on the bandits. Dwarfs gain control of the carts and head towards Snow White, who was quite pleased to see each other again. Apparently, both of them had misunderstood each other. Snow White thought Andrew worked for the queen and Andrew considered Snow White a thief. Bono had defeated all the guards and Snow White used the trick which caused Andrew's horse to kick him and knock him down. And knocks out the one who smells it with a punch. Later on, Andrew goes back to the castle without the caps and asks Vine why he lied about Snow White's death. Along with this, he also reveals that Chor giants are not giants but bones. Hearing this, Clementina goes back to the mirror house to make a new plan.
was he not a laughing master? Where the Miracle Queen tells her that she'll have to pay the price for using so much magic.
But Clementina didn't care about this. Chaiti Khanta Sate. Yukusti Kosham, she only wanted to punish the traitors. So she turns Throgbraton of Mirror Queen into a cockroach. Along with Mirror Queen gives her a love potion to cast a spell on Andrew. He had used the same position on the king as well. But Mirror Queen also said so Andrew should forget and give his age's oath. If Clementina still deceives Andrew and makes him drink that potion, but after drinking it, he starts BF like Andre Doc. And when he checks ki pani wo ati kuski mai, when he checks the bottle, he realizes it's a potion for puppy love. But what could be done now? And finally, Andrew agrees to the marriage. The news of the Burning Queen's wedding spreads throughout the kingdom. Hearing this news once, he tells his companions upon hearing this. Snowbat starts crying because she had fallen in love with Andrew.
Anna Clemency did not want to do anything wrong at the bar this time.
Aram to eight mukiti. Sochi Gaki ko stampe. Dekut Estiko she goes back to the Mirror Queen for help, after which two big puppets come to Dart's house and attack him. From the front, Tafs's beating had no effect on them because the papers were magical. Dabhi Snow White notices that they are tied with puppet strings, which she cuts, from which we connect the puppets with the mirror whales and they become normal puppets. The next morning, Daf sees that Snow White had already left there. She wrote in the letter that she loves them but can't put them in danger because of her curse. But Daf sets off to find her, who had not gone far. They tell him that you have done a lot for us, now it's our turn. And then they plan to ruin the queen's wedding. Meanwhile, everyone in the castle was busy preparing for the wedding. Give the pen to the human again. Andrea was also thoughtful like that. We assume that maybe foreigners do this. Snow White and Bone were also hiding in the party.
And by the time they reached Clementine, thus the pack creating Kindiante. Do from Kundia. Ray had been shocked to leave there with Andrew and had taken off all of Gast's clothes as well.
Angry with all this, the gentry's local people do not consider Anno capable of ruling the kingdom. Looking at Udar Dafs's weird behavior, they realize he's under a spell and try to bring him to his senses in every possible way. But it's of no use. And in the end, they make Andy kiss Snow White for the methadone. He had recovered and apologizes to everyone. Suddenly noises start coming from outside. The beast had almost arrived. Snow White goes out to fight it. She had also locked the door so that her friends remain safe. But Snow White collides with Clementina, who was the master of that beast. From this, Snow White understands that it was not Clementina who killed her dad, and now puts Queen Beast behind Snow White.
Meanwhile, Andrew comes out of the house with the key from Bono. Duff had also followed. The queen had returned to the mirror house.
Yo, 120 Poiki Kase. While they all fight in the middle, Choke was very powerful. During the fight, Snow White's knife falls down, which allows Bone to kill the beast.
Then Sandinaki Sunday.
Man to Sandiki, then Snow White notices the moon necklace in Beast's neck just like Saint Queen had, and she cuts the necklace's chain with a knife, which breaks the spell and reveals that the beast is actually the king. The effect of this is also seen on Clementine, and now she has to pay the price of leasing magic by giving her youth.
Meanwhile, Snow White was quite happy meeting her dad.
King Bono promises a reward for their help from his group. Finally, the king had arranged the marriage of Andre and Snow White. At the party, Clementina gives Snow White the apple, but Snow White had recognized him, and she feeds the apple Clementina, which completely ends the magic. The mirror house had exploded, and the entire kingdom attains freedom from the spell.